Okay, I want to tell you all a story, and I want to issue, a trigger warning, content warning. I will be discussing drug use in this story. All right. So there was this man, Chris. He was a social worker. He had a very stressful job, like every day, kind of dealing with people's issues. He was a trauma-informed person, so a lot of his interactions were with people who had a lot of their own stuff or whatever, and he was really good at his job. Like, he really had this ability to connect with I don't like calling people clients, but the people that he worked with, he was really good at connecting with them. And, I think part of why he was able to connect, and I'm, going to say that is just because he was also a drug user. And I think that there was just kind of an empathy and an understanding that went with that. So Chris is a drug user, but, as some people would say, high functioning or whatever. I don't like using that terminology because I don't like distinguishing between high functioning, low functioning, things like that, because I think a person's ability to function is completely arbitrary and individual. And I don't think that there's a baseline of functioning. So I don't like to use terminology like that. You should also know I'm a harm reductionist. So some of the things that I say kind of fall in line with that. So anyway, it was one day, he was like, it was a really, really stressful day. And he was like, all right, you know what? I need to cop. I need to, take the edge off. Now, normally he goes home, right? Like, he can do this in the privacy of his own home. But he knew that he didn't have anything at home. His other options usually to get together with a couple of friends, maybe go to one of their homes, they got the good stuff or whatever. Like, they'll do that. Or maybe sometimes he'll have them come over to his house. It's whatever. Like, that's just kind of, it's comfortable. It's, it's whatever. There's camaraderie, kind of shoot the shit and, do what they do. But his friend was out of town. His main friend that he goes with was out of town or whatever. So he was like, all right. He knew there was a place that he could go, no judgment, safe, clean, where he could go, use his drugs and, do what he wanted to do. So he goes, and it was this place that he had just heard about or whatever. It wasn't too far from where he lived, so he decides to go there. And he goes in, and there's maybe like 3-4 other people there, and there's a person that distributes, the stuff and whatever. So he goes in, he shows his ID. They ask him for ID. He shows his ID or whatever, proving that he's, old enough, who he says he is, blah, blah, blah. There's a woman kind of sitting maybe 50 feet away. There's a man, people are kind of spread out. He didn't really want to talk to anybody anyway. And it seemed like folks were there. They were just kind of like, I'm just here for my purpose and I'm not even paying attention. And so, he sits down or whatever. So the person comes over, the employee comes over, and they're like, what do you want? And so he tells them that, right? And he trusts them. I mean, it's weird because it's like he's used to kind of doing it himself and making his own kind of, thing. But, he knows that this person is licensed. They have studied. They went through whole training, everything like that. So he trusts that what they're going to give him is going to be safe. It's not going to be dangerous. It's not going to be laced with anything that, might harm him or whatever. And so they prepare everything for him, bring it to him, slide it over or whatever. He does his thing and he decides he wants some more. He talks to them again. They give him another dose. And, he's starting to feel the effects of it. And it's definitely taking the edge off, right? Like, it's kind of just what he needed. And he's wondering, like, why he doesn't do this more often, because it's like, it's just so easy or whatever. But, and it doesn't seem like people are ashamed to come here. It seems like a very welcoming environment. They're even like playing music and stuff. There's a couple of TVs or whatever. I mean, people are generally focused on what they're doing, but, it's a pretty cool environment. So then, he's ready to go. He's feeling a little, it had been a while since he had used. So the person that gave him the stuff was like, hey, you want me to like call you Uber? Because he drove over And he was, he parked outside and he was like, no, I think I'm okay. I got it. He figured he could drive. Well, he didn't live, it wasn't that far away. So he's like, I know I can, go home or whatever. And so the employee was like, all right, maybe we'll see you next time, just making him feel like this is a safe place for you to come to use your drugs. We will administer it to you. We will measure it out. We'll make sure that, you're not getting anything that's tainted or laced or anything like that. And you'll be safe. You'll be able, to do what you need to do. And, Chris was like, okay, cool. He left, got in his car and went home to sleep it off. Like, he just was like, the whole point of it was that he was super stressed out that day. So he went home. And, in his line of social work, he's an advocate, for syringe exchanges and things like that. He's a harm reduction. I'm a harm reductionist, whatever. But there was something about like this idea of like them putting a needle exchange or a syringe exchange in his neighborhood that he was kind of like, I don't know, it's going to attract certain kinds of people. And so he wasn't really a big fan, and he would go to the local meetings and stuff that they would have, and he could hear people's arguments, like it's going to bring this particular element and we don't want them here. And, this is promoting, drug use and things like that. But the place that Chris went to that was like right by his house was a bar. Chris went to the bar. Right? He went to the bar. Perfectly legal establishment. In fact, there are several bars in his neighborhood. Chris's drug of choice is alcohol. Chris went into the bar, pulled up, told the bartender, who is trained and licensed and knows how to mix drinks and pour out the right amounts, told the bartender what he wanted, and the bartender gave it to him. And gave him 2 doses of it, of his drug of choice. And when it seemed like maybe he wasn't having the best reaction, the bartender said, hey, I'll call you an Uber. I'll make sure that you get home okay. But he was like, no, I'm okay. And he actually went into his car, which, one has to wonder why bars have parking lots with all the don't drink and drive, stuff that we hear. Why would bars have parking lots? But that's kind of the point. Right? It is perfectly legal for Chris to go to a bar and indulge in his drug of choice under supervision of a trained professional. But people are against other folks going to safe consumption sites that are just like bars to consume their drug of choice. And I say this because I think it's important for us to think about the way we stigmatize drug use. Well, many of us are drug users ourselves. Recreational drug users, high-functioning drug users. Some of us are drug abusers, right? There's no real reason to have 6 or 7 mimosas on a Sunday brunch, back to back. That's a lot of drug use. And I just want us to think differently about this. I want us to realize that sometimes the things that we condemn other people for, that we criticize and judge other people for, are things we do ourselves. And it doesn't mean that one is right or wrong. You can actually be totally against people drinking alcohol, and I'm with you. But we got to keep that same energy for everybody. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the story of Chris, the drug user.